Well, BG408 is on the line. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good today. How about yourself?
Yep, I'm doing smashing. Now, your latest single is called Gtfo Ukraine, which stands for Get the Out of Ukraine. So,
Exactly.
I guess it's pretty obvious what the motivation behind the song is.
Yes. So when the war kicked off, I don't know, was it sometime at the end of February 23rd,
Mm,
24th,
yeah,
and those images started coming in, it just didn't sit right with me.
yeah.
Here it is. We have a big country invading a smaller country. For what reason?
Mm,
And I said to myself, if I were in a Ukrainian's position, or if a country had invaded my country and I had to, I went from working at a tech company or wherever I was the week before, and next thing I know, I'm fighting on the front lines
yeah.
for my family, my friends, my jobs, my homes. What would I want to hear? How would I want to feel?
Mm,
And that song just got me thinking. So I came up with this song because this is so I wrote this from the perspective of if I were Ukrainian shoulder fighting, this is
yeah.
the kind of things that would be rolling around in my head while I'm doing my job on a daily basis.
Yeah. Did you kind of feel like you had to make a song in order to do something about what's going on?
Every I look at the challenges we face on a globally, and
Yeah.
somebody can tell me, hey man, the world sucks, and I'm like,
Mhm.
you're 1/8 billionth of the world, so
Yeah.
look in the mirror. So yeah, I kind of felt I had to do something. I wasn't going to be taking up arms and flying across the ocean. So if I
Mm.
can do something from a point of motivation, something, let them know that they're supported, I'll do my job.
Yeah. I think there have been some people, haven't there, that I don't know about the US, but even from the UK, people are going over there and helping out. And I guess it's something that is a bit risky, I suppose, because they have to do it sort of unofficially, don't they?
Yeah, so there's something like it's equivalent to the Foreign Legion.
Mm.
Several, I was watching, saw the news. Many Americans, I don't know about many, but several Americans are over there fighting. There was a Vietnam vet on the news. I'm like, what is this guy? He must be great. He's like, I feel like I have to do something, and he's
Mm.
probably 70 something years old, but he's over there fighting. So
Yeah.
if this is anything like World War II, we have to do early so it doesn't spin out
Yeah.
of control.
Absolutely. And you see all the pictures on the news of, people who have very ordinary jobs, as you mentioned, giving up their livelihoods, and you see them fighting. It's something that probably even the Ukrainians didn't imagine a few months ago.
And I imagine, and I say it could happen to any one of us.
Mm,
So to know that they have support, and a lot of individuals have reached out to me, because I reached out to different people in the Ukrainian army and the military, and they've said, we really appreciate that, that somebody out there has us in mind and they haven't forgotten about us.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the song, is it directed to Putin specifically, or the Russian soldiers, or maybe the mixture?
It's directed towards the military, the military that is invading Ukraine.
Mm,
I have nothing against Russia, nothing against, I can't even say I have anything against Putin. I
mm.
can say I have against murdering innocent women and children. I mean, who
Mm.
doesn't? I suspect Russian
Yeah.
soldiers have a problem murdering innocent women and children. So I don't think it's unique. So as I said, I figured I had to add my voice just so people could know that these guys have support.
Yeah.
And from the news, it's like a lot of the Russians don't, the Russians who are there fighting, they don't want to support it either. And
Mm.
it's good for them that they're taking the moral high ground.
Yeah. It's interesting because all these atrocities keep happening and they keep claiming that they're not targeting innocent civilians, but that
Right.
can't be the case, can it?
Well, you can miss maybe once or twice, but what
Yeah.
was it yesterday? They hit a train station,
Mm.
and it just your heart goes out because it could be you or I, and it just happens to be them,
Yeah.
by their fault where they live. So it's upended the world, and especially it's upended a lot of lives of
Mm.
people in that Eastern European countries.
Yeah. So, what was the process of actually writing the song?
So I went inside my little head and I said, have there been other songs like this?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, in the Vietnam War, I'll go watch Apocalypse Now. What kind of songs were they listening to then?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, can I do something of a hip hop nature that captures how I would be feeling if I were fighting this war?
Yeah, absolutely. And how long did it actually take you to come up with? I guess, was it a long process or maybe quite short? I mean, because
It was actually a short process. So
mm,
I started second week, first week in March, about a week after the war.
yeah,
And I dropped the song, I think, on March 23rd or 24th, a month after the war began.
yeah,
So, I realized that there was so much upheaval happening so quickly. And, I basically took a day off of work, said, look, I'm just going to work on this project on this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, then write the music, push through it for the next 3 weeks and get this done.
yeah, absolutely. And as well, it's quite important, isn't it, to do a song about something going on in the world, because I suppose in years to come, you might look back and go, oh, I wish I'd written a song or like done something to show support.
Right. And like I said, you don't know how long we'll each be here on any
Mm,
given day, they say. So I figure I have a voice, and that's something that I take as a responsibility. If you have a voice, if you have a platform, then make sure you A, use it responsibly, and B, help those who cannot help themselves. So I think it's a requirement.
yeah, absolutely. And are you optimistic about things in Ukraine? I know it's kind of hard to be with all the images we're seeing, but I mean, do you think that maybe Putin will learn a lesson here?
I don't have a lot of optimism, only just
Mm,
because I don't understand why he did it.
yeah.
Here we are in 2022, and it's like if you're not getting along with your neighbor, you don't walk next door and punch the guy in the face. I mean,
Mm,
I don't know what he wants, and I
yeah.
don't think anybody else knows what he wants. And if he wants to, if he wants to bring back the USSR, that's going to be, a hard sell for a lot of other Eastern European countries. So
Yeah.
I'm not really optimistic, but I do have hope.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there's all sorts of theories that as to why he's invaded, but they are just theories, aren't they?
Right. Nobody knows except the man himself, and maybe you can get an interview with him and ask him. But yeah, I think the world would really like to know why is he doing this to
Yeah.
all of us.
I wouldn't want to interview him in person though, in case I asked any tricky questions and he poisoned me.
He said, I'll answer that question, but I have to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. And just before we came on air, by the way, I was saying about how I got this Ukrainian flag, but I couldn't find a way to actually put it up. But I think I've figured out the solution. It's not a very good one, but what I'll do is I'll just wear it. It'll look a bit ridiculous, but there we
You
go.
look like you're at a football match.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah, or
okay.
like some sort of festival on the
Yeah.
third day. Yeah. So, in terms of your musical life, really, how did you actually get into music?
So when the pandemic struck and we all went into lockdown at home, I had a little bit too much time on my hand, and I decided, okay, so how do people make music these days? And so, hey, they use this software. So I went and bought the software, and then I went on to one of those master class sites and took a class for the software. And then I took a music theory class on writing progressions and notes. And from there, I just, started trying to do what I've been doing, and getting a little bit better each time I try a project.
Yeah, and starting music during COVID and using all these technology, a lot of it is on you, isn't it? So you have to be a producer as well. Did you find that part quite easy?
You know, when you're you think you're at work and your boss says, hey, here's what you have to do and we need it done by this date. You got parameters. But when it comes to music production, it's like you can do anything you want. The parameters don't exist any longer. So
Yeah,
that is a bit of a challenge, because it's like, okay, how do I narrow this down to what I'm working with, and give my mind or brain something to wrap around? So learning the processes on how to create. And right now I can tell you, I still don't know if I have a good process, but it's the one I've been using, and I try to improve upon it each time. I take my notes, see what
yeah.
worked last time, see what didn't work, and try to improve on the next time out.
Yeah. I suppose the process doesn't really matter, does it? As long as the end result is good.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that because every time I've done something, I always say to myself, "This isn't going to work. It's not going to
Yeah.
work. It's not going to work." And then right down to the last note, I'm like, "Oh my God, it worked."
Mm. Yeah.
I'll send out demos to my friends. Are like, review this, review this, review this, pick it apart. What do you think? And they're like, wow, you pulled that apart. So yeah, you just got to stick with it. Is
Yeah.
ultimately you have a vision of how you see something, how you want something. You just have to stick with it till it
Mm.
falls into place and trust that it will.
Yeah, absolutely. And growing up, were you in a particularly musical household at all, or was this just something that suddenly appeared during COVID?
So, I played in band growing up, like a lot of people did. But I wouldn't say I lived in a musical household. I played band because, your mom says, well, you got to take a band class. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if I got to do it, I'll do it, but I'm not playing clarinet. So, so I took the band classes like everyone else had to. And then I
Mm.
haven't done anything, since leaving high school.
Mhm.
It was just pure COVID came around. I'm stuck at home and it's like, why
Mm.
not?
Yeah. Do you think you would have started music if COVID hadn't have happened?
Yeah, no.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have had a reason to.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I wouldn't have been stuck at home. Wouldn't
Yeah.
have had this extra time, so to speak. So, COVID is really what drove this.
Mm.
And somebody said, hey, you keep trying, you keep putting some effort and perfecting the process because it doesn't come overnight. It's like
Yeah.
anything else. So I figured, it
Mm.
won't sound so good in the beginning. As time progresses, I'll just get better at it. Because
Yeah.
I imagine, the first Beethoven symphonies probably didn't sound too good. We've never heard them before. So
Yeah.
everyone starts someplace. So
Yeah.
I just chalk it up to that.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. And I guess, yeah, because some of everyone's early stuff might not be as good. Do you think you would go back in time and delete the stuff eventually? Or do you kind of like it to
Do you
see
know?
how you've progressed?
I like seeing where I've become, where I started.
Mm.
Because when I look back on a project, I can say, okay, I learned this in between here and here, and I started employing these features, and I can hear the difference. So when I learn something new, on my last two tracks, I tried this new feature or this new process, and what a difference it made. And it used to take me a week or two to set up.
Yeah.
Now I can set up in an hour.
Mm.
Where so again, it's simply a process of learning what to do, what works, and then taking those few tidbits of what works, putting it into the next one, and starting the new project again.
Yeah, absolutely. And has the thing about COVID as well is that not only have you had more time to make music, but there might be more people on the internet listening to Spotify and things, so you might get little bit more audience than you maybe would.
Yeah, and I think that that's important. A lot
Mm.
of the streaming services, audio and video, their numbers went up over COVID because so much of
Yeah.
us were captivated audiences. So why not? And there are different groups here. I live in San Jose in the Bay Area. San Francisco's music group, where producers group, where they just get and have a Zoom call and people submit
Yeah.
tracks they've made and they talk about them and talk about how to improve them. So a lot of people use this as a way to get through the pandemic. I think I know
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And before COVID, of course, and maybe still now, you are an avid snowboarder, aren't you?
I'm a huge snowboarder, so
Mm.
I've followed the endless winter before, where
Yeah.
I've snowboarded for basically 13 months in a row. Went from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere and back to the northern hemisphere.
Wow.
Yeah, so snowboarding was pretty much all I did for a while. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah. Is snowboarding quite fun? Can it be scary sometimes, maybe?
when you're first learning, it's pretty brutal on the body.
Mm.
Somebody says if you can survive the first day, you'll pretty much make it as a snowboarder. Because the first day is like being in a car accident 50 times,
Yeah.
and the next day it's like if you can walk, you'll get back out there. But
Mm.
like anything else, how badly do you want to learn this new task, and how much are you willing to pay?
Yeah.
And when you're learning snowboarding, you're learning to pain because you're falling down again and again and
Oh.
again.
Yeah, that's certainly true. It must be one of those things that you have to be committed to do, because a lot of people would give up as soon as they fall over once.
Or you have to be committed for trying it,
Yeah.
because literally you're falling down a mountain all day long. But like anything
Mm.
else, you fall down 10 times, get up 11, and the next thing you know, you're falling
Yeah.
down 6 times and 3 times, and so on. So you just got to stick with it, whatever it is.
Yeah. And in terms of music again, who would you say are your influences?
So my choice of music, if I look at, if I look at what I have on a playlist right now,
Mm.
I'll see a Roddy Rich, I'll see a Moneybag Yo, I see, a Little Dirk, Little Baby, the
Yeah.
Baby, just all the stuff that, everyone's talking about, and we're hearing how they're flowing. But, I'll go back and, I love, a Tupac or a Biggie,
Mm.
simply because their lyrics were rich, and they were talking about, less about the glitz of rap, and more about the things that were taking place in the world, and how it was affecting them, and how it affecting the system or society itself.
Yeah. And also a question that we maybe should have asked earlier, but what is your genre really? Do you place yourself anywhere on there?
I don't know. I don't know what my genre is, in all
Mm.
honesty. So I've thought about that. I just
Yeah.
say it's rap.
Yeah.
I say it's hip hop. Um, Ask me a year from now, where I
Mm.
end up, but I'll let people decide, whoever. I figure there's 8 billion people in the world. I enjoy
Yeah.
doing this. I enjoy the process. I hope to be able to find, a few thousand people that might actually enjoy, what comes out of my crazy mad mind.
Yeah. And as well, this current song, Gtfo Ukraine, is very much rap, isn't it? And maybe that helps a bit, having a rap song, because you can portray your anger at what's going
Yes.
on better than if you were singing.
Yeah, or I figure if I wanted to be really angry, I could do a heavy metal song. That,
Yeah.
but I don't scream too well, or play the
Mm.
guitar, so I went with something that was much closer to my range, and something that I felt a lot more comfortable bringing to market. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, I enjoy the process again of just getting in the booth and trying different flows out and seeing what works, and then going back and trying to write something to match with that, and then trying to string it all together till you have something cohesive and say, hey, that actually bounces.
Yeah, and rap, I suppose the lyrics are often clearer than heavy metal, and you've got a message that you want to give out.
Correct. And when you're trying to deliver the message, and I don't pull any punches with the message is in the song,
Mm.
but I want it to be blunt, because
Yeah.
it's really, it's what I want. It's what I think everybody in the world wants. We want the GTFO. We want them out of Ukraine,
Yeah,
just so we can
absolutely.
stop seeing these horrible scenes we're seeing on the news.
Yes. Now, after this song, have you got plans for other songs and maybe shows and things in the future?
So I currently have 3 projects I'm working on, directly, part of my spring projects.
Mm.
So they'll be out by the end of June.
Yeah.
I won't say what the names are as of yet, because they're basically working title. But I had a goal this year, just based on when I start the year off. I said, what do I want to do? I said I wanted to put out 15 tracks this year.
Mm.
Why 15? I'm like, 15 was a nice number. It was more than one a month,
Yeah.
and I figured I could show my growth, pretty well over those 15 tracks. So I have three that are coming out, by the
Mm.
by the June timeframe. They're all hip hop, they're all rap songs, trying different styles, different flows, just to see, as I try to learn what my style is. I'm still trying to discover that. So I'm trying different things, and we'll see what sticks.
Yeah. Is it kind of hard to do 15 songs in a whole year because it's almost non-stop?
It's not that difficult to do 15 songs in a year,
Mm.
only because I spend a lot of time, if you're gonna, I think if you're gonna write well, you have to be observant, and
Mm,
I spend a lot of time collecting material which to write about. The hardest part, I think, is just can you find the music to mate with your lyrics.
yeah.
And so what I want to start doing after these three is start doing some collaboration with other producers, other writers, and that way it makes it a lot easier for me to reach my goals and those reach theirs. I like that saying that a rising tide raises all ships. So
Yes.
I look forward to working with some people just so you can I got three songs that are on tap, and this person has beats ready to go. Hey,
Mm.
let's get together and see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is there any message that you would like to leave our listeners with in terms of Ukraine?
If you have an opportunity, give them some support. And I don't, if on my Facebook page, there's a charity. On my Spotify's page, there's a charity. They're international charities. You can look them up and donate to those charities. If you guys are in Europe, so you guys are
Yeah.
a lot closer to this than we are here in
Yeah.
San Jose. So just giving these people some shout outs and some hugs when you see them. A lot of Ukrainians work here in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So, a lot of companies are doing a lot of outreach. So if you work at a company that's willing to do that, please support that because we don't want it to go any further than Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, it's ruined enough. 40 million lives have been ruined. We can't let it ruin 8 billion too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can we find the latest song, GTFO Ukraine, and indeed all your music that you've came out with so far?
So you can find all my projects, all my releases are currently on Spotify. They are on Apple Music or iTunes. You can find them on Amazon Music. You can find them on Deezer. They're on YouTube. All the major digital platforms have my product right now, and they're available to stream, download, or purchase.
Great. Well, many thanks for joining us here on the show today. This is probably the weirdest outfit I've ever worn during an interview, but it's kind of cool, I think.
It's appropriate. It's much appropriate.